Welcome to Apocalypse Apocrypha. I'm your host, JJ Shetty, and this is the podcast where I discuss all things post-apocalyptic. Okay, episode 10. I never thought I'd make it this far, and yet I'm only halfway through my list of books. That's not a good feeling. But anyway, today's episode is another discussion with our return guest, Professor Perlmutter. It'll be a good one, so yeah. Before we begin, time for some updates. Despite the fact that this episode was recorded back in October, it's being released in December, because my family and I went to Taiwan in November. It was a good time. We want to go back. But alas, we are back here in Germany, we're all sick again, and I'm doing my masters again. So, I guess being back in the routine of things has its own appeal. I've been reading a lot of books for university, so there has not been a lot of time for prepper reading, but I will get back there, I promise. That's the whole point of this podcast, after all. But, in the meantime, we have a lot of discussions with some very interesting people, and here's one of them. So, sit back and enjoy. Okay, so I am here with David Perlmutter again, Professor David Perlmutter. It's good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you, sir.
And there's just one of you this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, you wanted to talk to me about aliens and alien invasions. What have you experienced? Where do they touch you?
Yeah. I want to, for the sake of my perception of my sanity, I want to stress that I've never personally experienced an alien invasion, but as we talked about last time, I've been studying media now for about 35 years, and I've written a lot on political communication and war in the media, and within that broad descriptor, I've been very interested in fictional portrayals of war, including post-apocalypse, which is my entry point to reaching out to you with your great podcast and other sites and things that you do. And also, one of the species of post-apocalyptic is when the apocalypse is brought by alien invasion. Now, I would say probably my belief, maybe people disagree, that that's the lowest odds reason for an apocalyptic events, but it's certainly one of the most popular, and I think it bears studying, and I love discussing with students, especially the different scenarios of alien invasion, books, movies, television, comic books, games, and also discussions about plausibility, realism of the military, of the reasons aliens have, understanding world building. So just a lot of great stuff related to apocalypse.
Okay, fantastic. So I have a goal. I would like to write one story set within each sort of post-apocalyptic scenario. And I've often wondered how I would do the alien one. There's a lot of angles you can work with it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, thousands. And I think it's important, especially for younger listeners, to know that we've been speculating, we as a species have been speculating about alien invasion for a long, long time. And I mean, probably one of the great markers is H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, which is more than 130 years old now, and yet still being redone. I mean, the alleged worst film ever made was another adaptation by Amazon recently of War of the Worlds, but during COVID and online, which got a lot of attention. Not a lot of praise, but a lot of attention there. But so, in other words, the scenario is still fresh.
Okay, interesting. I'm not familiar with the worst film ever.
Well, there was a War of the Worlds adaptation for Amazon television, starring Ice Cube. And the backstory is that this was actually made during COVID, and everybody is online. I mean, the central figure, Ice Cube, plays a data analyst for American intelligence, and he's watching the alien invasion live through the internet, through social media, and talking to individuals and people, and saving the world also through social media, which is a very 2025 assertion of how things will go down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one where Ice Cube's just sitting there in a chair the whole movie.
Yeah, but it is interesting how this famous old property, War of the Worlds, is still being reinterpreted, for better or for worse.
I think I saw that around on the internet, but I never actually sort of clicked into it. I was like, okay, no, I have an idea of what that is. I don't need to go further. Okay. I might check it out now.
Well, I think maybe just I'd like to ask you, you started this podcast and you said you wanted to do something within the alien invasion space. What are your like most influential alien invasion media content scenarios, books, movies, magazine? I mean, what are the top three for you that have affected the way you view the possibilities and probabilities?
Mm. Oh, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Klaatu Barada Nikto. What's that one?
Yes, the day the Earth stood still, absolute
Yeah, that one.
classic,
Old
directed by
school.
Robert Wise. Yeah.
Yeah. There's only two versions. There's the old school one and the Keanu Reeves one.
Yes, we'll just forget the second one. Uh, uh, and that's a great example because, like everything else, things fall into genres and subgenres. I mean, for example, you've done quite a few shows so far on prepper collapse apocalyptic
Hmm.
fiction,
Hmm.
and that's, you could say that's a subgenre of apocalypse.
Yeah.
And so within the world of alien invasion, we have, I guess, really two broad categories, and that is the malevolent aliens who are invading to kill us or enslave us or take our stuff, take our water, take our our brides. I mean, in some of the scenarios, I mean, take our children. And then there's the smaller genre, but that one was that the day the Earth stood still was the aliens sort of kind of have a point that the Galactic Federation cannot allow a planet to get nuclear weapons and then go into space and blow things up, and so they have rules enforced by AI. Talk about very prescient and robots, and they're going to force us to behave by the standards of galactic society. So semi-benevolent aliens, let's put it that way.
Okay. So an interesting image just popped into my mind. There's a meme online. You're familiar with Warhammer 40,000?
Yes, yes. I just actually did a great episode of the Lorehammer podcast about that. But
Oh,
go ahead, please.
you're
Yeah.
on Lorehammer? Oh,
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love those guys. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's a meme where it's like why the Eldar so concerned about humanity. You know, like the Eldar are so like high and advanced. They're basically space elves. And it's like, okay, just imagine if a gorilla in plate mail armor charged into your living room with a shotgun. That's basically how the Eldar view humans. Like, yeah, they're sure they're low tech and their guns aren't that good, but like, if you've got a gorilla in plate mail with a shotgun, like, that's kind of dangerous.
Now, is that an Australia America thing? Because we have that happen here all the time, and I don't know, is it unusual? And we have some pretty tough bears. If you go up to the northeast of our country, the bears are breaking into houses all the time. There's a great short story, by the way. Howard Waldrop, I believe it was, Bears Discover Fire.
Oh,
Have you heard
okay.
of that? Yeah, it's
No,
going
no.
off topic here, but like because of climate change, bears don't have to hibernate, and so they have more time to develop a civilization.
Okay.
So, yeah, but yeah, you're absolutely right, and the Eldar are a very good example of another division in alien invasion, which is aliens who are specifically upset with us and like have it out for us. They want something from us. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum, you get into sort of Lovecraft, Cthulhu mythos,
Mm.
where the aliens they recognize our existence very vaguely, but we're sort of like mayflies to them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't they're not thinking about us in particular. They just hate all life or enemies or something.
Well, okay, so like I have been listening to a few podcasts about like aliens just in general lately. And one of the interesting things that keeps popping up is are we saying like aliens from another planet or like aliens from another universe or reality or something like that? Or like demons or something. Yeah, there seems to be like a lot of crossover in these communities, like discussing these sorts of topics. And it's like, is an alien from a different reality so much different than an alien from a different galaxy? Like, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know where like which of those is less likely. Other galaxies are pretty far away from ours, so.
Well, you're bringing up a really important question. When I have a discussion with students and I talk about within the genre of science fiction and fantasy, even though you may be projecting situations which are extremely unlikely, there still can be rules of plausibility and possibility and what makes sense within that universe. Last time we talked about how a lot of great science fiction and fantasy writers have made some comment about even fantasy and science fiction have to have hard walls, right?
Mm.
So if you have a dragon in your universe and it's a flying dragon that spits fire, okay. But let's not find out in book 3 that they can time travel and find out in book 5 that they actually are little dwarves inside dragon suits. I mean, don't smash the rules you've set down, right? So
Yeah.
all of those alien scenarios have been around. I mean, I can think of movies and short stories. I mean, I'm older than you, twice as old, I think, and I've started reading science fiction my older science fiction short stories were written in the 40s, so I have a lot of stuff in my head. And I want to give one example of the scariest and most plausible, well done alien invasion short story that was actually made into was a series. I think it's short. It didn't last very long, but it was an anthology series, Masters of Horror. It was made into an episode. You may have heard of James Tiptree Jr. as a science fiction writer of the 60s, 70s, 80s. It was actually the pen name of this very interesting woman who was a PhD research scientist, CIA analyst named Alice Sheldon. She had a very, very interesting life. There's a very good biography about her now. A very tragic life at the end there. I won't give away too much, but so she wrote under another pen name a short story called The Screwfly Solution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And have you read it?
No. I think you told me about it last time. Just fill us in again.
Yeah, it's just very memorable. And what I liked about it was that the science, which I looked up, was very well done. And then the ending, which was apocalyptic and horrible and horrifying, just, oh my God, just mind blowing. And I don't use that word very often. But then again, it made sense within the story space. So that's what I like, is when things make sense within the story space. So you were saying that one of the films the Day the Earth Stood Still, you must have watched that when you were very young. Did that make sense to you? Like it was a plausible scenario?
Okay, so I actually only saw the really old one in my early 20s and the Keanu Reeves one whenever that was in the theater. But as far as I remember, I'm pretty sure both plots were similar. Like, humanity has developed nuclear weapons, so aliens come down and give us like a polite warning, like, you have now graduated to the next level. You need to behave, otherwise consequences, will be dire. So, I mean, this is like 20 years ago, so that's my short refresher, I guess. Is that basically the plot of the?
Yeah, and it's interesting. As far as I know, there never was a sequel, and
Well, I'd hope not.
well, yeah, that's the question. Is that the other thing was that the way it's left at the end of that movie, when the alien played by Michael Rennie, as I recall, in the film, and his robot basically tell us, like, okay, these are the rules of the Galactic Federation, and like, if you don't obey them, we're going to wipe you out.
Yeah.
There seems to be shock and awe, but also acceptance. And I was thinking that was sort of 1960s, 1950-ish, that would be the end. Whereas I was thinking today, of course, there would be a billion people on the internet denying it ever happened. This is a government conspiracy. Let's organize to fight the aliens. I mean, it wouldn't just end like, okay, aliens, well, you got us. We'll obey the rules.
There would have to be some sort of carrot to go along with it, I think.
Or stick.
Well, that is the stick. It's like, okay, you've got nukes, but we've got everything else that you don't even know about. So you're welcome to join us, but you're part of a bigger game now. So
yes,
I could see that working.
Right. What would be another? You and I shared last time, and online and offline, that we both thought a lot of the movie Battle Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. I liked it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for my personal reasons, like I watch it a lot, but I enjoyed it. I guess, again, I think you need a story reason for the aliens to come down to the planet and actually fight, so your soldiers and your heroes can have, like, their day in the sun. Otherwise, you get your Ice Cube. Was it Ice Cube? It was
Yes.
Ice Cube, yeah. Otherwise, you
Yes.
get that. It's just like a bunch of like tech support guys fighting them off with drones, and so they're just sitting in desks at all the time. That doesn't make a good movie, as we've found out. So, hmm, yeah, you sort of need those, you know, passable pretexts to have aliens, boots on the ground.
Yeah, I thought that movie was so well done in the combat. I mean, I thought it was exciting and interesting. Just it seemed like the battles were done well. The reason the aliens were invading, as we mentioned last time, didn't make sense because like there's plenty of water in the universe. You don't have to come to Earth to steal it. But the stealing water part, I mean, that's the plot of another movie that got a lot of attention last 20 years, Oblivion.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Exact same plot, so to speak, of like the aliens are coming to steal. I guess they're coming to steal everything, but among the things they're stealing is our water
Hmm.
there.
I enjoyed Oblivion. I thought that was a good one. Just
Yes,
like
yeah.
Tom Cruise, spoilers for a super old Tom Cruise film. But like, yeah, just Tom Cruise like being the clone. You've also got the subplot of like the girl he's paired up with. They think that, or she probably knows they're not together, but he thinks they're together. And so you got like the aliens are manipulating them. She's probably in on it on some level. And it's just he's finding his way out. And like in the backstory, humanity sent him up to the aliens to sort of like either negotiate or like to defeat them. But then like they capture him and clone him and they send an army of him back against humanity. And who was it? Oh, like the leader of the resistance group. He was like, they sent
Yeah,
out
Morgan
Morgan
Freeman.
Freeman, yeah. And like they send like a clone army of our best against us. But then like at the very end, he's the one that goes up there and beats the aliens. So like he sort of like completes his mission in the end. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, it's Tom Cruise. He's got to. Can you imagine getting to that point? I mean, this actually is a plot point is that some of the best alien invasion movies and books, short stories I've read, humanity loses. But I'm not sure Hollywood believes that that's acceptable in a plot. I wonder somebody like you who's like you're studying genres, like you're studying the prepper fiction apocalypse genres, is it plausible? My impression from prepper fiction apocalypse is that it's not plausible for within the 5 book series or even in the one book, at the end, the preppers are wiped out and the government takes control or North Korean Marines take control. Like it's not acceptable for the good guys to lose completely. They might have losses, but they can't lose, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. I suppose as long as they survive the losses, it's okay. You can have them push back, so they're constantly on the back foot, like they're constantly pushed back and back. But I think at some point, they've got to sort of like, you know, make a stand and sort of start fighting back. But like, yeah, you could have aliens invade and like attack Earth and like take over Earth and start like mining it or something. And like the preppers are just there like surviving. That could be cool because they're like, okay, the government seriously lost, and now there's like a hostile alien force just like stripping our planet of its natural resources. Heck, you could even have the aliens like strip the planet bare.
Yeah. Oh, that would be bad.
Oh no, no, but like like not bare, but like there has to be enough that the preppers could survive. But then like the aliens just take everything of value and then just leave, and then the preppers are like, okay, I guess we can rebuild now. So they could be pushed that far back and then sort of come back from that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that there's an alien invasion and they defeat the regular armies of humanity. And in fact, I mean, this works into the narrative. The traditional, regular, formal leadership surrenders and starts collaborating, but the preppers decide to start a guerrilla movement and take back the earth. That's where I would want to go.
Oh yeah, you could definitely do that. Yeah, yeah. And then like, the aliens just get fed up with like this one little cell of like humans that is just constantly disrupting operations and like, nah, okay, you're all done. And they just start mass purging again. So yeah, like you could take it anyway. I could definitely write a prepper story like that. Whether or not it would sell, I don't know. But I could definitely write it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we have the example certainly within our own lifetime of Vietnam and Afghanistan, where the outgunned, non-modern guerrilla forces just wait out and wear down the high-tech, regular organized army. I mean, a lot of guerrilla campaigns have won that way, outlasting. And it's not crazy to think that aliens might have their own stop loss limit where they're saying, look, it's just occupation of Earth is just costing too much. Let's get out. We got other planets. Let's go there. So
Yeah.
there's a story somebody could write. Definitely.
Could you imagine like on the alien like command world or something? They just keep fighting back. Like it's just we can't hold the planet. It's like we just gotta leave. Like it's not tenable anymore. And these aliens just leave after like 20 years. It's like, oh God. Oh.
Well, I'm old enough to remember there were some novels, some science fiction novels with that theme. I'm blanking on the author right now, but there was a pretty best-selling science fiction book, Pandora's Planet, and that was really the theme: is that Earth is occupied by they're aliens that travel through space, but their sort of tactical technology is not super advanced. I mean, they basically have like laser rifles and things like that. They don't have, cosmic, thought control rays or something. They're basically like an advanced. Actually, you could probably say they're a 21st century army that invaded 1950 Earth, right?
Yeah.
But human beings just wear them down by constant guerrilla actions and sabotage and whatever. And I won't give away the end of the book, but like the aliens are just as frustrated as some first world armies were in fighting guerrilla armies in our world. So that is a plausible scenario. I could believe that.
The only thing is like within like the last few years, we've entered in like a new era of like warfare where it's like we've sort of gone forward 2 steps and with like one leg, but back 3 steps with the other leg. Like combat doesn't make any sense anymore. We're going back to trench warfare. Tanks are running around with like, oh God, in Australia.
The turtles.
Yeah.
The Russian turtles. Yeah.
Yeah, like in Australia, and like we had these, you know what a magpie is?
Yes.
Yeah, we had like magpie season where it's like if you're riding a bicycle, you need to wear like a helmet with like zip ties. So there's like the wavy spikes sticking out the top. Because otherwise the magpies will swoop you because you're going past their nest. So you'll see people on bikes just riding around with like zip tie helmets. And it looks like crazy hair because it keeps the birds away. Like tanks are going around like that, or with the turtle shell. Like it's just corrugated iron. And again, trenches. It makes no sense. But it's just like the way the war is evolving. And so what would an alien war look like? Like how would they fight us here? Like they'd attack with like one advanced form of technology. We'd respond to that, maybe counteract it, hopefully. And then they'd have to like counteract that counteraction. So any kind of like warfare, especially prolonged warfare, it sort of ramps up the evolution of technological development. And so as long as we could survive, it would be like a sort of boon time for our level of technology.
One of the most implausible things that I'm still willing to accept because it makes a good movie like Battle Los Angeles is that aliens would invade and then fight hand-to-hand combat with us, like infantry and tanks and planes. That just seems like a waste of their resources to do that. I could see them if I were the aliens, and I'm not consulting with them or anything, but I would just go right to directing asteroids, and just say, okay, look, Earth, we want the following things, or we redirect asteroids and wipe you all out. I mean, I wouldn't send down ground troops to fight Marines in Los Angeles.
No,
again, I love the movie, but I'm willing to bet a lot, and I'm willing to, own up to my mistakes if this is wrong. But I don't think the alien invasion will consist of ground troops and hand-to-hand fighting.
No, but again, you need that to have like the heroes, because again, nobody roots for the desk jockey.
Yeah, but now, as you're saying, we're in a very interesting situation with the Ukraine war and the recent series of connected conflicts in the Middle East, where let's go back to our scenario of guerrillas, right? Like just in the Middle East, a bunch of groups put all of their money into the idea that 1960s guerrilla warfare would always work because they would be able to snipe at the invaders who were in the tanks and so on. Well, now with not just drone like attack technology, but drone sensing technology with advanced spycraft. Israel, for example, It's supposedly they took out either 1,500 or 3,000 Hezbollah operatives by putting something, pretty simple, low tech, really low tech, of putting some explosives in some pagers, which
Yeah.
Hezbollah was using specifically because they thought low tech pagers would escape high tech surveillance, right? So I was just thinking like alien step one would be to gain control of Apple and Samsung. That would
Oh.
be like I do that first. There's a lot of things we've learned. The drone stuff is very interesting because you have the very complicated, expensive drones, but still the most expensive drone is less expensive than the most expensive tank. I was reading recently that we or our allies gave something like 40 to 60 Abrams tanks, which are the most modern main battle tank, I guess, in the world, which are the United States main battle tank. And there's different models of Abrams. But
Yeah.
we gave them not the highest level one, not the one with the depleted uranium armor, which, by the way, you talk about something that sounds as science fiction-y, that I'll just imagine 50 years ago, somebody put in a science fiction story, and I put on my ape with a shotgun into depleted uranium armor, that would be pretty advanced thought there. But anyway, now I think supposedly there's only 3 or 4 of them left that haven't been knocked out or had mechanical issues that couldn't be fixed or something like that. So we have this battle of like spending billions and billions of dollars for these advanced weapon systems versus very cheap weapon systems. Both Israel and Ukraine pulled off within a week of each other these attacks where they infiltrated the enemy country, Iran or Russia, and with trucks, with drones on them, and took out the entire, all of Iran's entire air defense capability was taken out in like a day. And then Russia lost 1/3 of its modern bomber fleet in a day.
Yeah.
And that operation probably cost, I have no access to the Ukrainian military budget, but I'm just saying, I think the whole operation probably cost less than one of those bombers.
Yeah, definitely. So in regards to like Taiwan and the potential future there, I was watching something about the US is like watching these two wars unfold and it's trying to like predict how it's going to adapt to that sort of situation in Taiwan. And apparently one of the things they're going to be doing is they're just grabbing like a small unit of guys and putting him in like an unarmored vehicle. Like it's just been like stripped down to like nothing, like no armor at all. Because they're like, it's all useless. So you might as well just have speed. Like you might as well be able to get to where you need to go as fast as possible. And since armor's not going to help you, we just send you out like in like a bare bones. It looks like it's not even finished, and they're like, we just got to get out there fast, and then we use drones as well. And so it's like everything's just adapting and changing, which is it's kind of crazy to see. But
Well, you're bringing up a point that I think that I always find interesting that is never covered. I mean, you tell me whether I'm missing this or not, but aliens who are invading the Earth tend to be ultra competent at what they do. They don't fumble and make a lot of mistakes, or unless we're not aware of them. I mean, they can make like a big mistake, like the original War of the World. As you recall, the aliens are kicking humanity's butt, but for some reason, their science didn't take into account, ordinary virology or biology, right?
yeah,
Oops, we didn't think about that. Okay.
yeah,
But I'm talking about what we know from like a billion examples of modern warfare. Australians probably, Gallipoli, the invasion of Gallipoli, one of the great blunders, not the Australians' fault, the British High Command's fault.
stunning victory.
Military incompetence is ingrained into Australian historical memory of how war can
Yeah,
go wrong, right? And I always find it interesting that none of the aliens are lazy, incompetent. They got their job because they were Nepo babies, or they went to the right military academy, but they're really dumb, But we have examples all the time. Was New Zealand a year ago, lost the flagship of their navy, because they ran aground, and I mean that looks bad for that to happen. We just had a big piece of news.
Is this the two aircraft in the South China Sea?
No. This is even bigger. There was a U.S. Navy ship that burned at the dock, the Bonhomme Richard, and it caught fire and it burned in the dock. And the Navy just issued its indictments and reprimands after 2 years. Admirals being fired, captains being, and if you read the report, I just read the report because I do work on this kind of stuff, and we had crazy things like only 13% of the fire control stations on the ship worked, and the ship had failed its last 14 fire control exercises, safety exercises. And I was thinking, like, we don't see that in space battles a lot. We don't see lazy, stupid, and I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying that like things going wrong by sheer chance and incompetence, or somebody forgot to do the wrong thing, or people weren't prepared. They weren't trained to do the right thing at the same time. I don't see that enough in actual space warfare and invasion warfare.
Okay, a few thoughts have popped into mind, so I'll go through them. There was a cruise liner disaster many years ago. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in like southern Europe or something, where like a cruise liner like ran aground or like tipped over or something.
Italian, yeah.
Once the captain sort of ceded control to like the Coast Guard, like they're in charge. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm in distress. I need help." And so the Coast Guard just took over. I think it was the Coast Guard or some organization. And like they released the radio conversation, and like I'm pretty sure like the captain was drunk or something. The Coast Guard's like, "You need to get back on the boat and like help people evacuate." And he's like, "No, I'm already on the evacuation. I can't get back up there." It's like, "We are in command. Get up there. Help everyone." And he's just like, "No, I can't do that. Sorry." And this is like, "How did you get this job?" Like, so many people are relying on you, man, and you're just like bailing. He's just like you're just listening to this conversation, and you're like, so many lives were in this guy's hands, and he's just not able to. Oh yeah, I listened to this conversation. I was just in awe. So it's sort of speaks to that whole like, at a certain point, someone is just so incompetent. Like you have to wonder like how they sort of managed to reach that position. So I could see that working. I don't know how you would convey that for aliens. That's the thing.
It would be a Simpsons episode, where like they're aiming their big Death Star laser gun at the Earth. Actually, I think there was a Star Wars parody where the Death Star aims at the Rebel moon and they miss, and then they
Yeah.
miss again. And they're and like, Darth Vader is like getting more and more frustrated, and the Grand Moff Tarkin is yelling at people, and they keep missing, because they
Yeah.
just they're incompetent. They're incompetent.
Yeah.
uh, are aliens ever incompetent in any? I'm trying to think of one single franchise.
District 9.
Yes, that's a good example.
They're just drones. So they're not really like, the higher caste who like can like think really well and like accomplish a lot of things. They're just sort of like the worker bees. So I think everyone sort of understands the sort of messaging that was, implied there, which is sort of complicated at this point in time. So yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's this interesting thing that basically every group does, where it's like you want to cast your enemy as like a deathly, like evil and serious threat, but at the same time you need to sort of downplay them and sort of show them to be like incompetent and like not really good at what they're doing. So it's sort of like it's this weird like propaganda thing where like on one hand it's like they're like world-ending threat that you need to handle right now, but on the other one it's just they're not that good, they're losers, like we can do it. I've noticed like a lot of sides use this.
I think that's a really good point. And I can give you an example that I've actually studied in my work, and it's a conversation I have. I have a module in a class. Is that during World War II, there was a point where German air defenses, fighters, and flak never really completely collapsed until almost the end of the war. But the fact was that if you were a German citizen living in most German cities, you were noticing that your city was in ashes and rubble. So this was a challenge for propaganda, right? For Goebbels and propaganda. Because at the beginning of the war, the propaganda was the German army is invincible and we are carrying the war, haha, to the enemy. Look, we're destroying London, we're destroying Moscow, we're destroying Stalingrad, we're destroying, Warsaw. We're not the bad guys. We're bad in the colloquial sense. and everybody should fear us. Then at some point, they have to explain to the German people, how come our cities are being destroyed? Well, they switched the propaganda to the evil enemy, our terrorists, and they're destroying our cities. But there's a fundamental problem with that propaganda of you're essentially admitting failure. You're saying, well, the German Air Force can't defend our cities. How's that supposed to get us, all excited
Yeah.
about the war effort? And so by the end of the war, they were just saying, fight to the death. That was the only propaganda left. Total war, Totalen Krieg. And there have been some science fiction scenarios about that. In fact, Babylon 5, the war with the Minbari at the very beginning, the alien race, we provoke a war with them, and they're sort of not bad guys, really. But like we tried everything, and at the end, we just had like trying to, kamikazes. That's our only hope. But it isn't a challenge of propaganda.
I think it depends on like your culture because like in Japan, they had that exact situation as well. America was like island hopping, trying to get to like the mainland of like Japan. And then once they get there, they're releasing like leaflets and they're like, guys, we've got something. Please surrender. We don't want to use it, but it would be very good for you to surrender. But their entire culture is just based on you never surrender. I'm going to assume you've heard about like the rape of Nanking and all that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry, just a tangent of a tangent. I find like something really, really amusing. During the rape of Nanking, one of the good guys was actually just this Nazi guy,
Yes, he's very famous. Yeah. Saved a lot of Chinese citizens. Yeah.
like a safe haven. And he's like, holy crap, these Japanese guys are insane. But then like over in the European side, there's like this Japanese like diplomat who's like writing out like visas for like Jewish people trying to get out of like Germany and like out of the region. And it's like each country had like this heroes on the other side, and they're just like they're fighting their war. They don't care about the other war. And so they're just like, man, this is crazy. But that was a tangent. Sorry, I just found that interesting. Yeah, the Japanese like weren't going to surrender. It was going to be like every man, woman, and child was going to pick up like a pitchfork or something, and they're going to fight to the death. So it's like, okay, nukes. So, not arguing for or against it. I mean, that's a whole other barrel there. But like, if someone says not going to surrender, like, what do you do? It's just they're not backing down. So,
Well, you're raising a really important question about depictions in media. And again, I've got stories in my head and movies just like you, but like we have examples of history where invasions occurred and it was never black and white of like it's the invaders versus the indigenous people. I mean, one of the advancements in scholarship that's taken in place about colonial wars in the Americas, for example, is the old narrative was these white Europeans came and they had this advanced technology, guns, steel, horses, and also there was disease, and they defeated the native peoples. And I think the new research that's been the last 30 years is saying, well, those were factors, but also if you look at all of the so-called conquests, other native peoples were fighting on the side of the invaders because the native
yeah,
peoples were not unified. When Cortez invaded Mexico, there was an Aztec empire, but there were a lot of other smaller empires that were pissed off at the Aztecs
yeah,
and fighting the Aztecs. And so they were quite happy to join in taking down the Aztecs. Now, you could argue in the long term that was bad for all the native peoples of Mexico, for anybody to collaborate with these, invaders. But you wonder, like the Earth today is very divided, right?
mm,
And so what happens? Harry Turtledove has a series, the master of alternative fiction, has a couple of series of like what if in the middle of World War II invaders from space came in, and some of the countries in the Earth go like, great, super opportunity to get back at our enemy, right? Let's collaborate with them. And we also have the example of certainly Europe during World War II of there being substantial groups of collaborators. So alien invasion has to never be just us versus them. It's probably going to be some of us versus them, but maybe some of us joining their side for different reasons.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of those like, if you've got no chance in the way the game is currently being played, what incentive do you have to play it? And so, like, if you see an opportunity to just overturn the entire game, you're gonna go take it. So, aliens rocking up, you've got no beef with the aliens. I mean, if they'll let you live, it's like, okay, I'll you on your side. It can't be any worse than here. Oh.
Part of my family descent is in the Balkans, and I've got a running joke with any academic I meet in the Balkans is that if you come from the Balkans, you understand what ancestral hatred means, right? That these, I personally don't practice that. Just in brief, my mother was Greek, and I have gone out of my way my entire life to make friends with Turkish people. In fact, I've led 2 trips to Turkey for like intercultural, interfaith engagement. So that's important to me. But let's face it, there's a lot of people in the world who, and maybe new countries like New Zealand, Australia, the United States, relatively new countries, we don't, what is Australia's ancestral enemy that you've like hated for 1,000 years? I mean, the British. I mean, I don't know if you're descended from convicts or something, but I mean, but you fought on the British side in every possible war, right? So it can't be that resentful. But basically, a lot of the rest of the world, there are ancestral hatreds, and smart aliens will be doing research on those and exploit them, right? When they show up, they won't just
Okay,
be
okay.
attacking humanity. They'll be like, hey, telling the Croatians, this is your opportunity to get back at your age-old enemy.
Okay, again, so many tangents. Yeah, so like I'm Australian, my dad's American, my mum's New Zealand. I don't really have like that deeper roots anywhere. And so like I've traveled a fair bit and I talk to people and I've got like these ancestral hatreds and I'm just like I don't understand that, man. Like my family hasn't been in one place long enough to sort of develop this like long lasting, like deep rooted hatred. So yeah, I've heard about it. I just don't sort of understand it. Actually, on one of my trips to America, oh, my one trip to America actually, my dad was from Kentucky and so he
Yes.
knew some like sort of dodgy, not good people there. And something they would do is like they would sell guns. Now, they didn't like a particular set of people. And so they would go and sell them lots of guns. But they'd sell the guns to both sides. And so that's like your aliens did. They would just give the two sides guns and just let them fight it out and be like, okay, we win.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
You would think that that would be a universal tactic, like all over the galaxy, empires, like the British Empire, like the French Empire, figured out, oh, divide and conquer. I mean, one of the things that we're struggling with whenever we try to come up with an idea of what are aliens like is n equals 1, right? We only have one example. We think all of life on Earth descends from a common ancestor. And what is it? We have 83% of our DNA is the same as a banana or something like that. Like, I mean, we're not that different from each other. So n equals 1. We don't have an example of life that originated elsewhere. But I'm interested in what cultural aspects might be different and might be universal. And I have to think that if you build empires, if that's a thing, any place else in the galaxy, the principle of divide and conquer is probably something you've happened upon in practice, and they would practice on us. Maybe they are, right? That's the conspiracy. They're already doing it.
Yeah. But again, like these stories aren't really written to show again, like a competent alien force. They're showing a force of aliens that is inevitably going to lose. So they can't be too crafty. What's that one where they come down? It's got the blonde-haired guy from, is it the girl from Lost?
Oh,
Was it V? I think there's two. There's like a,
that was a big, in my youth, that was a big miniseries, V. They were aliens and they looked like humans. They were wearing sort of human skin masks.
that's the lizard people one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they did a lot of trickery. They came very benevolently. That's a subplot in Stargate, the TV series as well.
Yep.
That there's a particular aliens who come and they're giving us benevolent gifts and like
Oh,
everybody
yeah, yeah.
loves them, but
And the sun, they reset the sun. Yeah, yeah. I remember that one. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're really doing terrible things to us, like sterilizing us without us knowing it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but divide and conquer, I predict, again, I'm going to go on the line here, and call, I hope everybody calls me when there's an actual alien invasion to tell me I'm wrong and I'm right. But I believe divide and conquer will be a strategy they use. They won't just come in and declare war on everybody.
Again, I think it would depend on what they want. Because again, like everyone's like, they want our resources, because that's sort of the stuff we want. Is like we want stuff. So the aliens want stuff as well. Like that's a motive that we can understand.
I can also imagine like there's an alien civilization. They just like the way we scream, or like they just want to like make us suffer. Something like just completely alien and like horrific. Actually, there's a Doctor Who spin-off, Torchwood. There's these aliens. They use like kids, like human children, and they're like drugs. They sort of I think they go to England because it's Doctor Who basically. So it's in Cardiff, sorry. And yeah, so they say like I think it's like give us like 100,000 kids or 1 million kids or something from like the world, and we'll leave you alone. Otherwise, we're going to destroy you. Because to these aliens, like children, like exhaling is like a drug for them. And so you see these aliens talking, and then they're hooked up to like a kid in like a gas mask who's been there for like decades. So,
Essentially the same plot as Monsters Incorporated, right? So,
well, yeah, like the screams or the giggles. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That reminds me of probably in the top 10 most famous science fiction stories. Ursula K. Le Guin, Those Who Walk Away from Omelas, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Ah,
It's a story that is still on the internet. Like when I read in our post-apocalyptic, I still see people talking about that story. And it's exactly that idea that like, I mean, there's this fictional city and people know that the whole city is powered. It's not exactly clear, but like the city is powered by the misery of just one little girl.
mm.
I mean, just talk about a horrific concept there. But yeah, they're aliens, so we just don't know. I mean, maybe they love. Maybe it's religious, right? I mean, we certainly human beings have gone places, and but maybe the real motivation was gold and glory. But like we certainly have said, we've gone there to
Yeah,
spread the
yeah.
word of our faith, and maybe I mean, that would be an interesting scenario for humans, right?
Contact. Again, I may have brought this up last time, but well, like one of the lines that infuriated me the most is like in Contact, they have the device to contact aliens. They're having like a live TV debate of like whether they should use it or not, like the pros and the cons. And there's this priest guy. He's like, "Why should we contact them? We don't even know if they believe in God." And I was just like, "Oh, what? No, why? Why would that even be a point here?" But yeah, like we have enough problems here with our God. What happens when like another planet's gods or their representatives come here and like, no, no, this is the one God. And we're like, oh, here we go. Okay. Like, I can see that causing problems.
Yeah, I think I've read some science fiction stories of the 40s and 50s where that was a thought question was that, aliens come and again, it's interesting on Earth. For example, like you look at a lot of societies on Earth and we have flood stories within our cultural, even our religions, right? And it's possible that they all derive from one flood. I think that's not the evidence in the fossil record, but let's just say it is possible. It's also possible that a lot of people have built cities near rivers and or oceans, and they've flooded. And so that seems to be a memorable thing that we insert into our cultures, right? So it's not surprising that floods be important. It would be really interesting that, aliens come and they say, well, we're coming here to spread the word from our flood god, You have floods too. Well, then you should jump on board our religion. Yeah.
Well, see, that's if they mesh well. Like, it's like, okay, so you got a flood god. It's like, yeah, and he's like, don't steal, don't kill. It's like, okay, like we can work with that. Like, that seems like a optimum sort of situation. But what, like, I can think of some pretty dark situations. Like, it's like your God wants us to do what? Oh,
And we've had a lot of, instances in the past where God, I mean, today, people are doing terrible things because they think they're fulfilling God's plan. So
mm.
it's not unlike, I mean, again, it's not completely impossible. We're talking about the plausible here, and I think it's not completely implausible that aliens might not have religious dictums that bode badly for us.
Okay, what if we go the other way? Everyone knows like religion. Like I feel like there's a long history of like religion sort of going off the rails and causing problems for people. But like the past decade or so, we've seen what happens when like an ideology can go off the rails. I mean, we had that last century as well. But like, what happens if aliens come down with like a really weird ideology? And it's not even a religion. It's just like some dude wrote a book on another planet, and now it's our problem.
Yes, this comes up in a sort of benevolent way. There is a sort of anthropocentric view of what's good and what's bad, right? Because we only have this n equals one. If religions of aliens or faiths of aliens do things that we like, then we call them good. There was a short story by Barry Longyear that became a movie called Enemy Mine, right? With Dennis Quaid. And I'm blanking on the actor who played the alien. And the alien in the movie, they're at war with Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a Hell in the Pacific Lee Marvin scenario where like an American GI and a Japanese soldier get stranded together on an island. They have to learn to work together. Well, a human fighter and an alien fighter get stranded on a planet. The alien has a little book that he has on a chain. I honestly don't remember, like the sayings of Grifnag or something like that. And he'll read like the philosophical musings of what are apparently his, great philosophy, his prophet. I think he's made out to be a more Buddha-like prophet, like not necessarily like a divine messiah, but like just somebody who had some really great thoughts,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, but the thoughts are all sort of vaguish, good liberal thoughts. That are approved. They're not like, and before you eat, you must smash a Grifnag. I mean, they're not alien. They're very identifiable, and I think that would be another interesting thing about the philosophies that might clash. Like they may be so offended by something which we go like, wait a minute, why are you offended by this? It's not offensive, but it is to them.
I'm just trying to think. China Mavell, he's an author. He does like weird fiction, like strange science fiction fantasy. In his Bas Lag series, where it's like there's a threat that comes to this city, and it's so great that like hell basically shuts its embassy. And they're just like, we're not dealing with this now. And they just close down the embassy. But like just like the humans having to talk to like the ambassadors of hell, or I'm pretty sure like an ambassador of hell or something. Just like the rituals they have to go through to sort of like, appease both parties. It's like when you get these two cultures that are completely alien to one another, it's like, how do they meet in the middle? Like the giant cactus men, and they don't have normal weapons, because how are you going to kill a cactus? It's like the only thing that really works is like a spinning buzzsaw blade, because that'll chop through the cactus. And it's like, okay, there's like flying birdmen, there's like beetle men, like it's just like this is really sort of strange, like that they're all aliens basically. So just that interaction of like creatures that have got like so little in common, but they're sort of forced to live together, and it's like how they learn to interact and like adapt to one another. I thought that was interesting and really well done.
Yeah, you brought up earlier about the different scenarios where aliens, I mean, we've been talking mostly about aliens being creatures from another planet, but there are in fiction, of course, many variations. There are demons as aliens.
Yeah.
There are time travelers from the future or alternate worlds. In the Sliders television series.
Oh, old school. Nice.
Yeah, eventually sort of the mega multi-chapter enemy are the Cro-Mags, these different kinds of humans who have evolved on a different Earth.
Do they have no eyes?
They have eyes. They're sort of like an old version of what Neanderthals were supposed to look like, if you
like,
recall.
There's something weird. There has to be someone in Sliders with no eyes. I'm pretty sure there was something weird with them.
I don't know about that episode, but maybe, I mean, there certainly might have been, yeah. But anyway, so there are a lot of different scenarios of who the aliens are, and that may affect, like in the fiction. Again, I don't know whether that'll ever be fact, but affect their attitude. is if they're a slight variation from us, like again, you have the man in the high castle, right, where there's an alternative Earth where the Nazis won, right? Well, that affects their view of us, that they're coming out of that ideology. That was a couple of Star Trek episodes, I think, too. But
yeah, that does seem to be a go-to source of alternate settings.
When you read something, I think the cultural difference is interesting. We talked about Australian apocalyptic fiction,
mm-hmm.
which is a subgenre. I mean, certainly, probably Australian post-apocalyptic fiction has been more influential than any other country, except maybe Korea now and the United States, because of Mad Max, right?
Mm.
And you defined a mega genre of post-apocalypse, the wasteland, and scavenging and riding around in smoke belching gas cars. That world of post-apocalyptic. Is there any very Australian Anzac, whatever view of aliens that's different than the USA or Europe view? Can you tell like an Australian alien from a non-Australian alien?
I'm trying because there is one that there's an Australian movie called Occupation. I think it's just like Australian movies don't really have that sort of like typically they don't have that sort of like footprint that a lot of like Hollywood films do. So we do have some like alien movies, but yeah, like Occupation is the one that comes to mind right now. But it's
Were there actual aliens there?
in that one, yeah. There was aliens in that one. It's just like they come down.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's basically The Day After Tomorrow. Have you ever read that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry.
saw the
No,
movie.
no,
Yeah.
sorry. No,
No.
sorry. It's a similarly strange title. Tomorrow When the War Began. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yes, I saw that movie too. Yeah. The bad guys there are United States. Are we invading Australia
No,
there?
no,
Or,
that's just like an
no,
ambiguous
no.
Asia country. So we don't really
Oh,
know
okay.
which one it is.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's a book that like is about invasion that like all, at least in my generation, like all school kids sort of read, like at least the first one. And then they made the first one into a movie. I don't think we have like a stereotypical like alien threat because we don't sort of have like, I mean, for the past century, near century now, World War II has been like the gold standard of bad guys. Even like Star Wars, even though it was like, basically, Vietnam, like the rebels fighting the giant empire. It's like the empire is still sort of, archetypical Nazi Germany, like even in the most recent remakes. So I don't think we've sort of moved past that. Like, the TV show, The Boys?
I have not watched that.
Okay, that's fine. The main guy, he's like a superhero. He's like an evil version of Superman. His outfit is like covered in like eagles, and so like he's basically like he's blonde hair, blue eyed. He's not a Nazi, but like he's leaning heavily into like the fascist side of things, and it's like he has like this chick who's another superhero. She's a villain called Stormfront, which is just not good.
Oh, yeah.
So like
Not very subtle, is that?
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, like something about like a dead horse and a dry well, and just it's like we don't really have any sort of like myths to replace those old ones yet. So
That's a really good point. This is, I like, to me, I like fiction. I mean, certainly we've got a lot of tropes, we've got a lot of motifs and just traditions that certainly we can call upon. But I feel like today there's sort of a cultural exhaustion of like especially when we meet villains in movies. Like I didn't actually watch Jurassic World Rebirth. Is that the latest Jurassic World movie?
I
I
don't know. I
just
haven't
watched
seen
the YouTubers making fun of it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first thing that I found out was that I know this is shocking to you and to your listenership, that the villain in the movie is an evil corporation that wants to exploit dinosaurs. I know. I'm thinking, man, those Hollywood writers, they must
They've
have
done it
spent
again.
months coming up with something that original. And the guy, there's an evil slick, like literally with slick backed hair in a Bianca suit or whatever, Italian
Yep.
suit, who's like cackling about like we're going to use this to make a lot of money. And I'm just thinking like part of my grand theory of the universe is that we live in the low effort era where everything is low effort.
It's all slop.
We seem to have a lot of trouble coming up with new villains, but as you are pointing out, we also have a lot of trouble coming up with villainous ideologies that aren't just rehashing 1930s all over again,
Yeah.
in terms of what can be evil.
Well, actually, okay, so you're familiar with the Fallout series?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I still haven't watched the TV show. Heavily invested in the game series though. The guy who made, or like he was like a lead developer or something on Fallout 2, Chris Avalon, he watched the trailer for season 2 of Fallout and he made a tweet and it was something along the lines of it was perfect, it was brilliant. The only thing that would have made it better is if the Deathclaw turned and looked at the camera and said capitalism bad. It was just like, oh, the burn. That is so good.
Well, that's pretty unusual when a creator.
Oh no, so he did too. He doesn't have anything to do with like 3, 4, 76. He doesn't have
Yeah,
anything to do with the modern ones.
but even then, that's sort of unusual when somebody is that honest,
Yeah, but it's like that's what they've turned Fallout into. It's just like they're just ripping on capitalism all the time.
And they give their games away for free to live up to that, right?
Totally,
Yeah. So
totally.
just
Yeah. And it's just, yeah. And I think like Tim Kaine, the guy who made the first Fallout, he's gone ahead and made like the Outer Worlds and one and two. They've just released two. And apparently they did something with like two where it's like if you pre-ordered the game, you got some weird debuff that like made your character worse off because like you played into the capitalist system and all that. And it's like, okay, it's kind of funny because you're owned by Microsoft.
okay.
Like it's just I'm pretty sure they're is it Microsoft or Amazon? I don't know. They're owned by like a really big company. But yeah, like it's just massive corporations ripping on capitalism. It just feels like really old, out of touch people trying to LARP with the kids. And it's just like
Yeah. Yeah. Hey kids, I'm here on my skateboard, with my sloped ball cap, and I want to be one of you. But it really it asks the question though, is like maybe there's just a limited number of variations of supervillain, of evil. I mean, I personally can think of more than just either fascism or capitalism. Like I think there have been in the history of the world other villainous organizations, or have done things,
Hmm.
but it seems like they have limited themselves to those two choices.
Hmm.
But the aliens will have something different, we hope.
Oh yeah, yeah, very much so. I can talk to you about this afterwards, but at the moment, like I'm sort of working on a project that's sort of like inspired by Fallout, just because like I sort of worked on a game, I didn't like how it turned out, and so I want to go ahead and like do my own, like entirely on my own, just make like a tabletop role playing game of it, and just sort of like here's me making amends, here's what I would like to do. So anyway, the point is I need to come up with like a new bad guy because I can't just do like the Chinese communists because like that's been done to death as well. So it's been interesting trying to come up with like a new enemy that is like viable as like a potential threat to the entire world. Like it's not that easy. Like besides Russia and China, like who else is there? Realistically, who's going to challenge America?
Yeah, and we sort of need aliens, I guess, because maybe we've just exhausted our own enemies here.
That's something interesting as well. Like again, the past few years, we've had like a lot of people become like really passionate about, like punching the stereotypical bad guy. And it's like, but they're not. I feel like part of it is these people don't have like a real enemy to fight. And we've got this like legendary generation, like two, three generations back. They fought evil and they pushed it back and they won and like they're heroes. So how do you compare to that? I don't think a lot of these people have like anything they can compare to it. And so they're just like, no, we're doing the same thing. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's some small percentage of it. But yeah, I just feel like just like we don't really have any of our own myths, we don't really have any like super bad guys because we sort of get roped up into like a lot of really weird causes these days. And they also sort of seem to be like very clearly defined by your current political party.
I go back to, in terms of alien invasions, I have liked it, and I guess 2001 and Space Odyssey is not classified as alien invasion, although in the plot that's hinted in the movie and I think is more explicit in the book, the aliens invade, and I put that in quotes, and seize the Jupiter and say like, okay, I forgot like where they take a moon of Jupiter or Jupiter, but anyway, they take one planet or something in our solar system and say, we're going to be doing something there. You leave it alone, right? But they don't actually do anything to Earth.
Hmm.
And I always liked that because they were sort of I mean, it's explained sort of, but it's still not quite explicable what they're doing, why they're doing it, what they're, who they are even. I don't think we ever see the aliens maybe. In Contact, I felt that sort of fell flat. I hated when the aliens come out and explain everything to the audience because, you know, because that's what humans do. I think condescending, explicit, hammer over the head explanations is a human thing, and I hope other creatures don't do it. But it's a problem of trying to find a motivation that's different than the really apparently small quiver of ones we have to work with.
Again, I I think we need this sort of stuff because like there's a TV show called Boardwalk Empire,
Yeah.
and like in the last season, this one guy like gives his life. He like trades himself to let this girl go free, and he's like, "Wait, how do I know you'll keep your word? Like after I'm gone?" And the guy that's about to kill him is like, I suppose you'll just have to tell yourself that I will. And it's just like, if the bad guy, if the alien doesn't sort of like become condescending and tell us his big evil plan, like we don't sort of have like a way out of it. Like, again, like it makes sense. Like, why would they do that? Why would they sit there and like, why wouldn't they just, wipe us out? Or why would they act like a human? I think they need to for the story. Because again, like a story isn't real life. It's weird. Like a story has to make sense as a story, but not as real life. It's like, why do the bad guys monologue? It's because you need them to. If they're not monologuing, it's like if the bad guy just walks in and just kills James Bond straight away. Like it's just, that's it. Like that's the logical thing to do. But you can't have that. So they have to monologue even though they know like every other villain that's done that has been killed.
There was there's a couple of responses here, but one just it's a slight tangent. But have you ever watched the Monty Python sketch, "The Death of Mary, Queen of Scots"?
It's possible.
Yeah, so just anybody can just go. It's only like 2 minutes long, so just go on YouTube. So anybody who's listening, go on YouTube and look Monty Python, "Death of Mary, Queen of Scots," and it's sort of a play on what you're saying because these two, I think these two women who are played by Monty Python members are listening to BBC radio, and they say, and now BBC One will play the drama, "The Death of Mary, Queen of Scots," and you're expecting this like 19-part historical drama that's pretty familiar to anybody who watches British television over the years is the death, Mary, Queen of Scots, right? But instead, it's a minute and 30 seconds of someone saying, "Are you Mary, Queen of Scots?" And so, "Yes, I am." And then all you do is you hear her screaming as she's being killed. That's it. And it's over. That was the end of the show. And I think they were sort of playing with the fact that in this culture, we sort of need explanation for everything. I'm thinking of the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone. I cannot remember which one, but this is the second series, the new series, Outer Limits or Twilight Zone. I'm thinking it probably was Outer Limits, but they had a very clever plot. These aliens kidnapped some humans. The aliens turn out to be these shrunken, shriveled creatures that can't even support themselves. They're so weak, and they do want to take over the earth, but they don't want to have to fight us. They just want to spread a disease and we all die off and then they just come down and take over the earth. And so they want to test. I forgot the exact plot, but these humans who are just random humans who've been picked up, they're not like a band of brothers or friends or something like that, or 12 Australian Marines, they're just random humans. By the end of the episode, they decide to sacrifice themselves for the rest of the earth. And they successfully do that. And here's the catch, though. The Earth will never know about this. Nobody will like build monuments to them. The aliens just go off and say, okay, well, we can't invade this planet. Let's go find another planet. And so these people have died, sacrificed, and the greatest sacrifice in history, for the whole planet, not just for your country. And they know that. And you think, like, God, that's an amazing heroism, right? To do that. And of course, in wartime, many, American soldiers and Australian soldiers have done that in World War II and elsewhere, sacrificed themselves, and not necessarily, to get a medal or, to get a memory. But there is this other part of alien invasions, and maybe that's the note to end on if you want to, is that there are some properties out there, some content where, the divisions we have, these terrible divisions we have in humanity right now, which are, tearing us apart in warfare on 15 odd places on Earth, just like it did 30 years ago and 100 years ago. Human beings say, hey, wait a minute, I know we have this ancestral hatred and you're a different race and you're a different religion, but there's something more important, humanity itself. And so I do think that some of the properties, Independence Day, there's a famous scene in Independence Day where the Iraqi pilots and the Israeli pilots fly together to destroy the aliens at the end there. I mean, just like everybody says, well, we've got our problems, but humanity we're more loyal to humanity than we are to a particular flag or something like that, which is impossible in our world. But an alien invasion may help out a little bit.
Well, that does seem to be like a theme with alien invasion films, where it's like, it's basically just the Japanese and Pearl Harbor again. Like America was divided back then as well. The Japanese attack, and suddenly like every American is like galvanized, like they're ready to go to war. It's like 9/11 again. Just everyone's on the same team suddenly. It's like, I understand your point. I'm not so sure it's like, humanity first. It's like, no, no, no. It's like, we're going after those guys now.
Yes, I don't know. You're absolutely right. We don't. I think both will happen. You know, again, depending how smart the aliens are.
Because you think it happened in Armageddon as well. Like when the
Yeah,
giant, is it comet, meteors coming to Earth and like the broadcast is going around the world and everyone's sort of like working together, listening to it. And like that has been like a theory that has gone around, like, eventually there will be like a fake, like a false flag alien threat just to sort of unify all of humanity. So like it's an idea that could work.
yeah. I guess that's going to be a problem if we actually have an. We talked about at the very beginning of this discussion. We talked about how social media, the internet, and conspiracy theories have not been fully integrated into alien invasion movies yet. Actually, I think that this War of the Worlds one, I mean, I didn't watch it. Again, I just watched a couple of YouTubers making fun of it. But I think that that actually introduced the theme of like people posting online immediately, it's all fake, it's all a government conspiracy, buy gold or whatever. So that will be the most likely outcome if people don't believe it.
That could actually be an interesting film, like, aliens attack, one side just voices its complete opposition to, and like they're gonna fight the aliens. Sure, the other side doesn't put their old hatred aside. They just decide to do the exact opposite of what their old opponent does. And so it's not like, yeah, let's beat the aliens. Like, no, 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 we're gonna side with the aliens. Oh, and then something happens and they swap sides completely. They flip flop around. I don't know. That sort of seems like a dark. What is it? Gallows humor, dark humor. One of the ones where it's like a not a real ha ha funny, more of a make you cry.
Yeah, I think gallows humor is definitely. I do think that there also will be maybe culturally or nationally or even religiously driven different reactions in
Mm,
that kind of a scenario. And that's something again that I feel. I guess novels, you have the time and you can have the exposition to deal with that. Like I mentioned, Harry Turtledove has I think two different series where aliens invade
yeah,
during
okay.
World War II or something like that, and he deals with that of like the different sides temporarily joining the aliens because they're helping them against their ancestral hatred and things like that. But
Yeah.
I think somehow with movies, it's harder to show that level of complexity or nuance. I don't know, but it's certainly possible.
That one recently, with Leonardo DiCaprio, Don't Look Up, like that giant
Yeah,
meteor is heading towards Earth. They're gonna go blow it up. But then like the whole Zuckerberg Musk stand-in characters like pulls the US president aside. It's like, no, no, there's a bunch of really useful minerals up on that thing, so we're not gonna blow it up. We're gonna find a way to mine it. And then Earth gets, destroyed. So but yeah, yeah, just humans having crossed wires and where their interests and priorities should lie. I feel like there's definitely potential for it, but it's a different sort of movie.
yeah, and maybe going back to something you said earlier is that we shouldn't always assume that the categories that are important to us are important to everybody. So, like again, if you were, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Tzlaxans who were there in central Mexico, and the Aztecs like to keep attacking them to get sacrifices to the gods. And so when the Spanish show up, you can understand being the king of Tlaxca there and going like, hey, these guys are fighting our ancestral enemies, the Aztecs. They're the good guys. Let's join up with them and help them out and take out the Aztecs, which is exactly what happened. You can imagine that across borders, and you can also imagine that, within countries too. I mean, I feel, the United States, we have serious political divisions. Of course, we've had them before. There's lots of countries that have serious political divisions, religious divisions, and maybe it won't take much to just say like, hey, we're invading, but like we will take out those. We tell the people of I know Sydney that hey, we're just going to take out Perth, and you hate Perth, right? So you won't mind if we. I mean, I don't think the divisions in Australia are that bad, are they? I assume not, but
Yeah, it'd be between like Sydney and Melbourne, those two. They were actually going to go to war. Well, like they were going to fight over who could be like the capital. And so they ended up just building like a third city in the middle. It's its own weird territory. That's why we have like another territory that's our capital. So nobody knows who the capital of Australia is, but that's fine. But yeah, exactly like that. If a smart alien would just come down, pick a side, Or, better yet, give both sides weapons, highly advanced weapons that can help them in their, totally valid and just cause, and then sort of stoke the fires a bit and just sit back and watch what happens.
And I'm going to go a step further and say, one of the issues that you also brought up is virtue signaling, is that people like to do things and then claim that they're doing them for virtuous reasons because I'm such a wonderful, good person, right? And you can imagine, like, let's just say it's a fact that there's, whether it's in like the Western Sahara or Baluchistan, there's a lot of peoples who want an independent country who are now part of somebody else's country, right? I mean, some of these peoples have better PR than others in terms of attention, but like in any odd place on planet Earth, you will find independence movements of different ethnicities, religious groups, things like that. You can imagine aliens showing up and saying, we were just passing by and we heard about the plight of the, Snipians here, and we're intervening to help them achieve their freedom and independence from the tyranny of, the Australian Empire or whatever. I mean, they could do that. They could virtue signal their way into invasion. And that's another plot I'd like to see is, social media virtuous aliens tweeting about how they're here to save our oppressed peoples, of course.
Better yet, they're here to, rescue the cows. They've
Yes.
heard the plight of the cows. They're going to give them all the advanced technology and gene editing they need. And suddenly we're everyone against cows with laser guns.
Well, yeah. That's what was it? Star Trek. One of the Star Treks, where the aliens show up and they don't recognize us. They want to talk to their friends, the whales. Yeah,
that's a common one. Yeah. Well, what was that? Battlefield Earth? That's an alien invasion one where the apocalypse happened, and it's like horrible movie. I love it though. But it's like we tried to talk to the dogs because we kept seeing humans chauffeuring the dogs around and picking up their poop. They were very cooperative but not very helpful, so we had to wipe them out. I was like, that's a gold, man. That's a good line.
Well, yeah, from space, I would think you would figure out that cats are the apex life on the Earth. I mean, who's scooping up whose poop, right? I mean, typically in slave situations, the slaves are scooping up the poop of the master, so it's hard to read from a distance there. But anyway, I appreciate the conversation. I think, one takeaway for me that I always like to discuss with my students is, let's face it, because n equals 1, we don't actually have, most people, I personally don't believe we have an example of an alien to look at and to discuss. That so far, everything is a reflection of our own hopes and dreams and fears and whatever. It would be very interesting obviously it would be intrinsically interesting if we actually met aliens, but it would also be intrinsically interesting if they have ideologies and religions and motivation that we can't understand or ever understand.
Yeah.
They're just inexplicable.
That does sort of seem to be a thing where, at the end, the two forces come together in a time of peace and, learn to understand what caused the war to begin with. And it's just no, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I'll think about it and see what I can come up with. But again, it could just become too unmoored and just without reason. And you're just fighting this endless war, which could be interesting. I'll think about it. I'll see what I come up with.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the conversation. I enjoyed it.
Okay, so that was my second discussion with Professor Perlmutter. It's always nice to talk to someone who is both knowledgeable about everything in general, but also fanatical about the post-apocalyptic genre. So, that is the meat and potatoes of this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, comment down below. Even if you want to chew me out, do that down below. I hear the algorithm cares not from whence the engagement flows, merely that it flows. And so, until next time, have a good one, and take it easy.